Al and I have had the opportunity to work on a few projects together, and we've got a few more over the horizon. But Al, maybe you can talk a little bit through the experience of in Hidalgo County in Texas, and the problems they had, and what the community used as an approach to problem solving, because I think it really, will put a finer point on the impact that these type of investments have in communities that really have very difficult problems to solve for many of their constituents.
Right. Well, in Hidalgo, Bart, one of the, when we look at building these infrastructures, again, I mentioned the assets, the importance of that. Oftentimes, assets aren't there. I mean,
yeah.
When we talk about Hidalgo County, we were moving into neighborhoods that didn't have utility poles in place. So part of that project, the wireless piece was a large piece of that, a large part of that whole project. But we were constructing towers, we were extending out fiber infrastructure, we were installing utility poles, we were installing luminaire arms on utility poles to bring lighting into these neighborhoods. So the benefit wasn't just broadband connectivity. In some cases, it was power. Yeah. And what was great about it is that through an entire network architecture built in layers, where we had a backhaul layer of microwave links to extend the connectivity where we didn't have fiber, to a capacity injection layer where we would bring it from the tower and extend it to the street level at the street lights where we had the Ruckus Wi-Fi access points. We could deploy those access points along the street in these colonials, is what they would call them. And we could serve a high number of users with only a few access points, right? So our return on connectivity was extremely high. And from a safety standpoint, we didn't have to coordinate or schedule access into their homes because we're blasting that signal from the outside in. So it makes the project deployment extremely efficient. And when you're sheltered in place, the patience to wait for 2 years for fiber to come to your home is not acceptable. We had to get that connectivity there. So that it turned out to be great success for that community. And I mean, there's over 3,300 or 3,400 Wi-Fi access points in that deployment, right? And as everything goes through the testing process, I mean, we'll probably have 100,000 unique client devices being served. That's a community impact.
A big impact. And you went from a situation, prior to this project where you literally had children being asked, right, to engage in discourse over this medium that we're on today, right, in order to learn.
Yep.
And the community quickly realized we have a number of constituents that don't have basic broadband connectivity that is reliable from a phone or otherwise, right? And to their credit, they saw the need and they responded swiftly, and they were able to take advantage of the CARES Act funding that has been directed at a lot of these projects. And on the other side of this, right, you had very happy educators and teachers and community leaders that made an impact, right, simply by deploying Wi-Fi out on the city streets, right? Something that on the face of it, you kind of think, well, that's simple, and there's Wi-Fi pretty much everywhere I go. But you went from communities that didn't really experience the internet to overnight, being able to distance learn and remote work when necessary.
Well, the realization, Bart, on these projects is when you can say, hey, I'm gonna go down to Hidalgo, I'm gonna work on this project, I'm gonna go visit this area, and then you have to put in your out of office notification, because no one can contact you,
right?
Because there's no connectivity,
right?
I mean, that's when it gets real. That's when it gets real.
I think oftentimes we associate these challenges with very rural communities. But Al, with SmartWAVE, we've also had the opportunity to work in some big cities, right? That struggle with the same issue, and they have public infrastructure at the schools that is very reliable and under backed up by really strong fiber. But 2 blocks away, out in the community, right, you can't get a reliable cell signal. and operators don't invest in broadband connectivity because the economics of it don't make sense. And we've had an opportunity to go into communities in really dense urban areas and solve a lot of these same challenges.
Yeah, Oakland and East San Jose. I mean, you think about East San Jose, we're the capital of the Silicon Valley, and an entire community, like 7 to 8 square miles that we're going to be covering, no connectivity or lack of connectivity to meet the needs of everyday life. In Oakland, from downtown Oakland to the San Leandro city limits along International Boulevard, it's all Wi-Fi connectivity now. Yeah. And you know the system's being used when you're sending 15 terabytes of data in a couple of weeks, because that's the Library of Congress. Okay. Yeah. The behavior of the users, the type of devices that we're seeing on the network now, we're seeing a lot more Roku boxes. I mean, people are shifting their TVs to the outer walls that get the connectivity, right? I mean, they are taking advantage of the network, and that's exactly what it's there for.